G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. This time we are going to be continuing with our Zombies saga and taking a look today at the 5-star legendary purple zombie Breakthrough. Wherever he is, the Stone-Skinned Zombie is his title. So Breakthrough is available for summons, as we saw from the Zombie Outbreak portal, which wraps around once every 12 weeks. The portal itself, it has got some fairly average odds. There's no featured heroes for starters, which means that the 1.2% chance for a legendary event hero is it. And you're as likely to get a specific hero as you are to get any of the other zombie heroes in the portal. To put that 1.2% into perspective, if you were to do 100 summons in this portal, you would only have a 70% probability of actually getting a zombie 5-star hero. If you are hunting a specific zombie 5-star hero, say for example Breakthrough, those 100 summons would only give you a 10.3% probability that you'd actually get the specific zombie. So all in all, not great odds when you're chasing after a specific zombie, and they are, I mean, it's still not great for going after any zombie hero from the portal. This portal itself, it has had a bit of a convoluted past. Originally, there were only 4 zombie heroes in the game, and you could achieve them, so you could attain them by cashing in something called a zombie badge. In May 2021, though, SGG overhauled the entire thing. They basically ripped the zombie badges out of the game, tossed them away, and then added in its place the 30-stage spec op that we've got today, the Zombie Outbreak Event, and then the portal with it. At the same time, in May 21, they added in 14 additional zombie heroes and then put the 4 original zombies into the same portal. They expanded the portal a couple more times in September 2022 and again in March 2023. Breakthrough, however, was part of that 2021 overhaul that was done. So he's been around for a little bit now. His artwork, if we just flip over to my roster real quick, we can take a look at that. So his artwork, it's kind of got, I mean, he's called the Stone-Skinned Zombie, and we can see that he's got some of that stone skin going on. He's got some crystal growths going on as well, and it does look like it's an infection of sorts, so sort of like, I guess, Grayscale from Game of Thrones, if you're familiar with it. But yeah, that's his artwork. I kind of get some Korg vibes from Guardians of the Galaxy, but yeah, that's his artwork. Feel free to pause it if you so choose. Flipping back over to the portal, and we can take a look at some more stuff on his card. So the next part of his card that we look at is his family bonus. So he is a member of the Zombies family, which means that he is receiving minus 50% damage from turn-based status effects. So this is things like burn, bleed, blaze, toxic, poison, all of that sort of stuff. He gets minus 50% of those effects. There's also a plus 3, 6, 9, or 12% attack bonus if there are 2, 3, 4, or 5 unique members of the zombie family in a battle. Note that they do have to be unique heroes, so you can't just bring along 2 copies of Breakthrough. It's got to be 2 different heroes, such as combining Breakthrough with Triptych or Breakthrough with Barbed Wire as 2 examples. In terms of his personal stats, Breakthrough comes in with 590 attack, 746 defense, and 1,535 HP. So there is a fair bit of skewing going from the attack stat towards the defense and HP, which is relatively fine. It works quite well with his special skill, but we'll get to that later. His charge speed is 54, which is average speed and requires 10 tiles to charge, or 5 ghosted tiles. The speed break does need only plus 4, so you can do that using either of the 5-star or either of the speed guns in purple on the game. So you've got the plus 6 Pearl Scale Convex, and you've got the plus 9 Explosion B90. So both of those are 5-star weapons. A double charge break needs plus 11, so you got to get from 54 up to 65, which you can't actually do in the game at the moment. Even when you combine a plus 9 gun with the 2% charge generation emblem node that he has, it still doesn't get you across the line. So as a result, the speed node on his class tree is not hugely relevant and probably isn't worth chasing after specifically. On the topic of class, Breakthrough is a member of the Sentry class, which grants him the chance to armor up at the end of each turn when he receives damage, which will give him 5% armor. So I generally don't mind this perk, as the damage can come from any source. It can be from tiles, it can be from damage over time, minions, skills, whatever. As long as it's doing damage to him, it does have the chance to proc the armor up effect. The downsides are that obviously it only happens once at the end of a turn, so it doesn't matter how many times you get hit, you only get one instance of armor up. And the other thing that's kind of a bit of a Debbie Downer on it is the medic talent, which grants the healing to the entire team, whereas the sentry is just to himself. But in either case, it is still free health or free armor, so not really a bad thing overall. In terms of an actual emblem path for breakthrough, I personally would recommend just going a defense path. And I would go defense at every single possible turn that you can. When there's a choice between attack and a HP as a secondary effect, I would again just be going with HP, increase his survival, seeing as that's how he's kind of geared already. And picking up attack nodes doesn't really do anything for him. So what this would look like, forget that this is Shocker, this is actually now Breakthrough. So what this looks like on a talent tree, we'd be going and picking up the defense node, defense node, defense node. The HP node is really not worth anything, so the healing node is not worth anything, so don't bother with it. We'll keep picking up defense nodes as we go down, and I would honestly stop him at plus 18. I wouldn't go any further. Even though the bottom node on node 20 is a defense bonus, giving him plus 26 more defense, it does cost you 250 emblems for that node, plus the 125 to get there. So it's essentially 375 emblems for plus 26 defense points. So not really worth it, in my opinion. So I'd just be stopping him at plus 18 if I was to emblem him up. Yeah, that is the class tree that I would follow for Breakthrough. So pause it again if you need, but otherwise we're going to head back to the portal and we can take a look at what his special skill actually does. So his special skill is titled Crystal Tackle, and at 54 charge speed and level 10 skill, it will deal 200% damage to the target and nearby enemies. It will then also raise the caster's defense and his nearby allies by plus 36%, with a further 2% increase each time they are hit for the next 3 turns. And that caps out at a total of 56 defense. One thing I didn't read out there, is that the damage from the special skill is based on the caster's defense. So let's just hone in on that real quick. So I want to address any questions that might be around that specific phrase, that, quote, the damage dealt by this special skill is based on the caster's defense. What this means, really simply, is that the attack power that feeds into the damage calculation, normally you would feed in their attack stat. For Breakthrough, however, you feed in his defense stat. It's that simple. There's not really anything else to it. The rest of the damage calculation executes exactly the same, but what it does mean is that things that would normally boost damage for a regular hero do not work on Breakthrough. So things like blunderbuss, attack buffs, berserk buffs, those sort of things, they don't work on Breakthrough, okay? Instead, what does have an effect is defense buffs, or ailments, as the case may be. So just something to note, and also tile damage. Tile damage is still calculated based on his attack stat. It is only his special skill damage which is feeding off his defense stat. So with that in mind, let's take a look at that damage component of his skill. So damage itself is actually quite difficult to count. Well, it's easy to calculate. It's difficult to get on a consistent basis because there's so many variables that feed into it, including an RNG factor. So how I normally compare heroes that do damage is I do it based on their attack power, which typically is their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their special skill. But in the case of Breakthrough, we can see that I have fed in his defense stat, which is 746, multiplied by the 200% in his skill, and that comes out at a attack power of, pardon me for a sec. So you can see that his attack power comes out at 1,492. So that is his attack power, but to normalize it against his charge speed, we divide it by the 10 tiles, and we come out with an attack power per tile of 149. All right, so Overall, that's fairly respectable. It comes in at number 6 of the 12 available DOA 3 purple hitters. If you are able to get that cast off a second time within 3 turns, you are actually subject to that defense bonus, which can considerably improve his damage output. So we can see I've fed it in there as if he got the full 56 defense bonus. That comes out with an attack power per enemy, so his total attack power of 2,500, or an attack power per tile of 250, which is quite considerable. You can see that some of the other ones, you've got Triptych, who's another zombie hero. He comes in at 223. Dark Skull's at 186. Mirage is 122 for a normal version and 132 for a variant. So there is a little bit of options going on in purple. And as I said, Breakthrough comes out either really fantastic if he gets the second cast off under that defense bonus, but even on his base damage, it is still pretty hefty, coming out at number 6 of the 12 options. And seeing as we're already discussing that defense buff, we may as well move on to it. So the line in question is that last bit there. I'm not going to read it again, but it's basically a scaling defense buff that he applies to himself and nearby allies. So there are a couple things worth mentioning about this. Number one, it is obviously percentage based, which is great because it means that it will scale further when you apply emblems and weapons onto him, but also for his allies, it can account for power creep and then keep improving that as well. The second thing that I want to highlight is it's something that I call scaling, or I mean other people might call it a berserk style buff, which is basically that the skill starts off relatively low and it increases with each hit that they take for the duration of the effect. So the hits themselves, they can come from anything. It can be tiles, it can be slash attacks, it can be skills, minions, fiends, whatever. As long as it's doing 1 or more damage, then it counts as an increase to the defense buff, and that can go all the way up to 56%. The final thing to really note, and we've kind of touched on it already, is that it actually synergizes really well with the first half of his skill, that damage output. And that's because his damage output from his skill is calculated based on his defense stat, which means that any defense buffs in play will increase his attack power, right? So that's all really awesome. And as you can see, defense buff in his skill with his skill means that he does get like a combo effect to improve his overall damage output. Unfortunately, it will only apply on a second cast within 3 turns. It's not like if it was to play the other way around where it did defense buff and then damage, then it would apply on each cast of his skill. But it does, the way it's written with damage first, then defense buff, you've got to last through to that second turn, or that second cast within 3 turns. So, I mean, his stats and the defense buff itself, it does mean that he's likely to survive to get multiple casts off. It then just comes down to whether you're going to get the right tiles to do a second cast within those 3 turns. So overall, Breakthrough is actually quite an interesting hero. He's part of a very small group of heroes who utilize their defense stat for special skill damage. These heroes, they do benefit more from defense buffs than a typical hero does, because not only does it lend survivability to the hero, but it also enhances their skill damage output. The combination of on Breakthrough of the Berserk style defense buff with this defense-based damage is very powerful if you can get that second cast off. So you do have to recharge his skill and cast it a second time within the 3 turns, but it's still quite good, right? The usual combination is also worth mentioning that if you do combine Breakthrough with Elemental Defense Down or Normal Defense Down, it will further enhance his damage even more. So one combination that might actually be quite interesting is pairing Breakthrough with Variant Edge. A little bit of a different combo, but hear me out. So Variant Edge, he's got a defense down ailment that he puts on all enemies, so that's going to improve Breakthrough's damage output. But the reason that I sort of suggest Variant Edge is because he does a damage share buff, and each time any of the allies get hit, it counts towards triggering Breakthrough's defense buff scaling. So even if you've got Breakthrough in position 1, and someone in position 5 gets hit, because of the damage share, all of them get hit that one time. So Breakthrough's got damage buff or defense buff goes up by 1 tick, right? If someone does a massive strike and they hit, 3 enemies, well, guess what? Breakthrough also gets 3 instances of that defense scaling as well. So quite an interesting combo. might be worth trying out if you've got Breakthrough and Variant Edge leveled up. In terms of Breakthrough's actual grading, we should keep progressing. So I'm going to give him a B grade for war attacks and raid attack situations. Decent hero, decent damage, a little bit unique and niche, and hard to actually drop his attack bonus, but easy to improve it with his own skill. For War Machines, he's only going to get a C-. This is because his tile damage is still based on his attack stat, which we can see is quite low. Eventing, I'm going to give him a B grade. He's got pretty good DOA 3 damage. His tile damage is still based off his attack stat, so that is a bit of a downer on that front. For defense situations, so in raid and war defense, I'm going to give him a B-. He's not the greatest option that you could put on defense from a purple team, partly because of, he doesn't really offer anything as secondary effects to the enemies, but he is a pretty good DOA 3 hitter. So yeah, maybe workable at flank position to give a defense buff and add survival to the tank, while also allowing him to shelter to fire off 1 or 2 times. In the tournament settings, I'm going to give him a B grade in Bloody Battle attacks and a B- on Bloody Battle defense. In the Buff Booster tournament, I'm going to give him a B grade for attack and a B- for defense. Even though he personally doesn't benefit from the Buff Booster rule set at all, as it improves attack stat, he does give a buff to nearby allies, so he does help them get additional damage output, even if he doesn't. For charged attack, I'm going to give him a B+ in attack and a B grade on defense, and this is because he does improve from 54 up to 65 speed, making it much more likely that he's going to get that second cast off while the defense buff is still active. So overall, that comes out as being a B grade for attack, and it comes in as a B- for his defense grade. And that concludes the content that I have for this review of Breakthrough. As always, these are just my personal thoughts and opinions on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them, so please do jump down to the comments section of the video. Leave me a note there. I do love reading them, and I try to respond to as many of you as I can. If you did like the video and found it to be enjoyable or good or useful content, feel free to like the video, subscribe to my channel and all of that. But most importantly, share the video around, because realistically, if this sort of stuff is useful to you, it's also going to be useful to the people that you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review video. I do hope that I will see you again soon in another one. However, until then, please stay safe, good luck, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!